It's Spoilerin time. And what that means for you is that Brian and I are going to discuss 4 television shows that we've been watching, not on maybe on televisions, but over the internet. And we're going to spoil the crap out of them. So if you haven't watched them and you don't want to be spoiled, stop watching right now. Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I just feel bad, man. It's like they're not even going to be able to bother to watch these shows. They're going to be so ruined by the time we're done with them. Right?
Yeah, if you haven't watched these shows, it's going to be like eating beef that's been left out in the hot sun for a month.
Oh, geez. That's the new name of the show. Beef Out in the Hot Sun.
That's it. We're changing the name. Hot Sun Beef Show. I think we might get some better SEO that way. Although we'd also get some very disappointed people.
Yeah. Like, hey, man, I tuned in to watch beef spoil in the hot sun. Instead, I heard you guys talk about The Shield. What's up with that?
Who else likes to watch hot beef spoil in the sun? My mom.
All right. So what do we want to start with?
We're going to finish with Fargo episodes 8 and 9. We are going to, before that, do The Shield episode 8, season 3. We're going to, before that, do Transparent episode 4. But we are going to start, to answer your question, with Twin Peaks episode 1, which you watched.
Yeah, so you had mentioned that first of all, the whole thing started with Twin Peaks because they're going to do a follow-up series 25 years after the original. I watched the first episode. Now, first of all, a little bit of background that you guys need to know. At the time that it came out, I was in high school, and I knew it was a quirky show that a lot of people liked, but I never watched it at the time. However, I think it was my algebra teacher would play the Twin Peaks soundtrack while we were taking tests, and I thought it was a groovy soundtrack. So I bought it, and I used to always listen to it to go to bed, right? Like that was my going to bed music. And unfortunately, I decided that the only time I had to watch Twin Peaks nowadays was shortly before I went to bed. So I'd load it up. I'm like, this is great. I got my iPhone 6 Plus. It's going to be a giant screen. I'm going to watch me some Twin Peaks. And then, oh, that didn't work out last night. Let me try it again. We'll sit down. We're like, I remember this first 5 minutes. Let's get started. And now we're, I believe I'm entirely... And then the third night, I was like, all right, we can make it. And I'm pretty sure I saw it to the end, although I can't say 100%. But I will say what I remember of the whole thing, which is, number one, it doesn't matter if I was tired or not tired. It is astonishing to see black and white the change of pace of storytelling nowadays. Twin Peaks is at a glacial pace. Like that first segment, it was 15 minutes to essentially say a girl died and her parents are sad. That 15 minutes. And by the way, it's when you are deeply familiar with the soundtrack to a show and not familiar with the show, it's like a switch is very obviously switched when they start playing the music again. It's distracting.
Boom, boom, boom.
No. And all of that stuff. So the first 15 minutes is the small town girl dies and it's sad. It wasn't until like halfway through as we're seeing, Diane, I'm driving through the forest and golly, these are amazing trees. What kind of trees are these? It started to get a little bit charming and I started to see the quirk in it. And more importantly, finally, like halfway through the first episode, we enter our first question. I had no questions the entire beginning. And it's like nowadays you would never tell a story that way. You would begin with a question immediately. There would be some kind of flash forward to be like, where's this headed? How do we get to this point? Blah, 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 blah. There was none of that. The first 20 minutes of this show was torture for me because it was very obviously like there was a town. And in the town was a girl, and the girl died. And the parents were sad that the girl died. And anyway, it wasn't until the quirkiness of our main character, Kyle MacLachlan, is that his name?
Agent Cooper?
Yeah, Agent Cooper, which, by the way, how old was he when he did this? Because he only done Dune like 5 years before, and he was supposed to be a teenager.
He'd been in Blue Velvet, too. I think he might have been 30-ish, I want to guess. I don't know.
He reads as so much younger in that, where he's like, golly, what are these trees? They're so great. At any rate, he was born in 1959, so he was pretty much 31, 32. Wow. Right on. Surprise. At any rate, he it's not until he shows up and starts being quirky that all of a sudden I realize why you wanted to rewatch this and why you're excited about doing it. And I want to play psychotherapist here, and you can tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong. Is the reason you wanted to go back to revisit Twin Peaks because Fargo is essentially the 21st century version of Twin Peaks. Like, it hits so many of the same notes of the quirkiness of you have the function of getting from the question to the answer of solving the mystery, but along the way you have these quirky little bits of stuff that takes you along. Like, I started to see that at some point.
Yeah, it's funny. What got me so excited was the fact that it's coming back, right? Bar none. But even before they announced that it was coming back, watching Fargo made me want to watch Twin Peaks. You're absolutely right, because it does hit that same note of strange, twisted world underneath the normal world and mystery that is bringing up more and more questions with these quirky things that happen along the way. Malvo is a character right out of Twin Peaks, and I think that'll be even more true if you keep going on watching this. My reaction to your first 15 minutes is that something I didn't want to say before you actually started watching is this first episode does not hold up as well as some of the other episodes. It looks great, but I think one of the things they were going for was to lure you in to thinking you are watching a typical early 90s drama, right?
Right.
That you are just, this is going to be, a small town girl gets killed. This is the Dynasty, Falcon Crest, but it's going to have more mystery. And then to ease the audience in, because they didn't have a lot of choices, right? Even though cable's around, it's still like broadcast television is where it's at, is to ease you in with the Diane, the trees, and, the donuts, and, cherry pie, and all of those quirks. Because if you hit people with that right up at front at that time,
right,
you blow off a lot of the audience. So it is a long way into the story, and some of the acting is a little uneven in this pilot.
Okay, wait. Can we talk about the uneven is a generous term, because 3 nights I remember thinking, well, maybe last night I thought the acting was a hot bag of shit just because I was about to fall asleep. But then I'm like, no. All of this acting is a hot bag of shit.
I didn't think all of it. I mean, it depends on the character.
Okay, I'm sure there were good characters, but those weren't the ones I was looking at.
You don't think Agent Cooper's good? Because I think
no. Well, even then, he's a bit oversold, right? Like he's just a bit over the top for where he needs to be. But then, meanwhile, like all of the other detectives and all of the city officials are like, "Golly, how are we gonna resolve this?" And plus, also some of it hasn't aged well because. The bad boy boyfriend is like time traveling from the 1950s. He might as well have a cigarette pack rolled up in his white T-shirt and his T-Birds jacket.
I remember thinking that at the time, like watching it then, I was like, is he trying to add an air of timelessness to the place by having him be like a greaser?
Yeah.
Somehow, like it always seemed odd to me that Bobby was transported from West Side Story. Yeah.
Well, and again, like to me, the whole story finally started beginning when a bold claim happens where he's like, hey, so there's a key in a bag. There's some white powder. I'll bet you $1 billion is cocaine. And everyone's just like, whoa, wait, what? What? It's like that's the first time that I noticed like, oh, well, that's something that actually engages me. This girl, by all accounts, is a small town good girl, and
she's the prom queen, right?
Yeah, exactly. What is going on? So I'll keep going. I'm going to be honest. I'm a little fuzzy on the end because it took me 3 viewings as I went to sleep. I'll probably have to watch the very ending of it to get back into it. But I will continue on through episode 2.
Doesn't it end? Now I can't remember exactly how the pilot ends because I watched 3 of them in a row, but. Doesn't it end with Agent Cooper dreaming?
It certainly ended with me dreaming.
I was going to say, so it may or may not have been dreaming.
Well, okay,
Brian. You may have just become Agent Cooper.
I gave it 3 nights, Tom.
Did you see red curtains and a dwarf?
Yeah. Okay. The red. Okay. The problem also is like my only memories also like I worked at the movie theater when the movie Fire Walk with Me came out. So it's like, and I saw snippets of that as I was going in and out cleaning up child vomit. So it's difficult to know what images I saw when. I saw the log lady. I saw the, the investigation. what I'll probably do is in the middle of the day, I'll watch the last 20 minutes to refresh me and plow into episode 2, and I'll have that for you next week.
And episode 2 for me starts to hit. It's obviously tighter. It's not a pilot that's trying to prove something to executives and the audience alike. It coalesces down into more of a story. The golly gee whiz, we got to show how innocent this town is. Starts to feel less forced. It doesn't quite. It's not on the rails yet, but you're starting to see more and more of the things that I actually love about that universe that they created.
Yeah,
so.
and R Sharp in the chat is surprised that they introduced the log lady already.
Yeah, she's in episode 1.
It's very much a token cameo, as if she's a background character in the Star Wars cantina. They're all like, look at this crazy cast of characters in this town. There's a lady with a log. Anyway, look over here now.
Now, at the time that I was watching this in real time, that was one of the things where you were like, what the hell is that? Who is she? What is her story? Like, what is going on? We've seen so many Fargo-like series since then that I don't think that kind of character sticks out as much as it used to.
Well, and also that conceit is familiar to us. Like we figured out that you can allude to a thing early on and have the payoff later, and we've become more patient with that. Like, we talked about on this show, we've talked about how the difference between the Star Wars prequels and the originals is that the originals was all about questions. What are the Clone Wars? What happened to Luke's dad? Who was, what was this or that or the other thing? And then the prequels were all answers, and they were like, oh, well, I guess that's all we get. We're accustomed to that conceit now, and so the fact that they're setting up so many questions, and again, I'm spoiled. Little bit of Godfather syndrome, because I told you I watched The Godfather and didn't enjoy it because it looked like a cliche, trite retread of things I'd seen parodied a million times before. There's a little bit of that where I'm kind of immune to the questions being asked, and so I don't know. I trust. I am enjoying Fargo way enough that if this thing is the precursor to Fargo, if nothing else academically, I can understand and enjoy the lessons that it teaches me to experience it.
Well, let's move into the modern age. Transparent, episode 4, Mappa.
Dude.
Which we find out is the name that the middle daughter has coined for Mora.
Okay. It's so great because Bonnie, she's got kids to raise or whatever, and she understands that I'm doing homework when I'm watching TV shows. But I love it. And to me, it is a real testament when she flat out says, I do not have time to watch this show with you. And I say, okay, well, I'm going to start it now because it's my job. She's like, go ahead and do that. And I get started, and then I just pause, and I'm like, by the way, here's what happened in the stuff you missed. I'm just going to hit play because I'm watching it. It's my job, and you don't have time to watch this. You're darn right. I don't have time to watch this. I've got stuff to do. And then an hour later, she's still there, and she's like, this is a really good show.
And I think this may be one of the weakest episodes so far, in that I'm now, nothing is a big revelation anymore.
Right.
And so I'm like, yep, that's what that guy would do. Oh, he's with Carrie Brownstein now. Well, I bet he's gonna, he's gonna say something weird because that's what he does. And it's a good thing, right? I don't mean weak and like, oh, this really bored me. I mean, like, this was an episode where it's like comfortable. Like, okay, this is, yep, I'm enjoying an episode of Transparent. And then did I just miss it? Am I dumb? Like, I did not put it together that woman that we saw in the first episode was in fact the babysitter.
No, same thing here. Like, I knew that there was some kind of like fetish worshiping or whatever, and they had alluded to the babysitter before, but like to see them in this weirdly like what feels like a distance sexual only relationship where it's clear that their boundaries are like, that he's able to, make love and have his life and do whatever he wants or whatever. But it's like, what's weird is that he's not upset about what happened. He's upset about what people think about what happened, which again is that self-absorbed kind of thing that you would expect exactly from him. And I love the fact that at this point we still don't know all the characters' names because we haven't been paying attention. But it's like there will be a time when I will know his name and I will know to call that person a coward, a self-absorbed asshole, and so on. It's so good. The characters are so rich. I loved the I loved the opening with the youngest daughter still obviously rolling on ecstasy, as she put it, practically making love to her father, caressing the wrinkles on his face and or her face. And again,
is that Allie?
I guess
it's Sarah and Allie are the two daughters.
Okay.
I think Sarah's the older one, right?
We'll figure it out.
Josh is the boy, though. I know.
That situation, there were two moments in the mall that were delightful. One was the very real situation that you deal with transgenders going to different bathrooms, dealing with that. And that was a case where at least, she had a support group behind her as she went to do it. The other, to me, the real gold is the automatic, unquestioning way they buy the youngest daughter bought as much foundation as she could, knowing full well that she'd come back 20 minutes later to turn around and get it for cash.
Well, you saw the light go on. I was like, what is she up to with this? And then as soon as I was like, I need to return these. I was like, oh, that's brilliant, right? That's perfect. Well, and the other side of it is that Maura is sitting there with Sarah telling her, just remember, they're going to expect you to buy stuff. And she's like, no, she'll have the small one. Like, that was the most beautiful part of that entire exchange, because this is the scene you expect to see when you hear about Transparent, right? Like going shopping with the daughters for the first time and then having that experience in the bathroom and all of the tension around that. It's handled well, but I love that Sarah particularly, and Allie too, are behind her. 100%. That was the nice thing. It was like it could have been an easy get to like have some drama between the daughters and
I don't
her.
Understand, man. Why you gotta be a girl?
No, they were like, no, that's my dad.
Yeah,
and she gets to be in here.
Yeah,
and I am not going to acknowledge that there is anything wrong with that sentence at all.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I'll tell you what is astonishing, and I'm trying really hard to put my fingers on it. There is something about the directorial style that makes, I don't know if it's because they come in mid-sentence. I don't know if it's because people interrupt each other. I don't know what they're doing on set. I don't know how much of it is improv, but it feels utterly realistic and believable. Yeah. Like as though there are times I feel almost ashamed for being a voyeur in the very real lives of these characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. No, they whether it's improv or a combination of improv with the dialogue guidelines or whatever, it's working. All of these feel great. And one great example of that is I also really expected the Tammy storyline to be that Sarah had misinterpreted anything and Tammy was like, no, we're not going to be together, go away. And it's not. Tammy's actually more of a coward than that. Yep. That's how Tammy feels. I think we all can tell. But Tammy doesn't want to tell Sarah that because Tammy likes making out and having sex with Sarah.
Yeah.
And so Tammy's trying to keep Sarah on a string is the way I feel it is now. But that scene outside the house did not go the way I thought it was. I thought Tammy was going to tell her, hey, stop this. You got to leave me alone. And instead it's like, well, I can't do that, but I don't want to blow you off totally. So, yeah.
And I don't know if it's so much as a coward as just weak, because it's a hard thing to look someone in the eye and say, I will not do this or I'm giving this up.
I don't think Tammy wants to give it up. Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Regardless, I will say again and again and again, astonishingly good storytelling. The content is engaging. Don't worry about that. The writing is good. Don't worry about that. The characters are interesting. Don't worry about that. I will say that this is probably the best, most believable, I feel injected into the narrative with this show in a way that I've not felt about any other television show this entire year. Would that be fair to say? Does that resonate with you as well? Like, I feel like I am there with real people in a way that I've not experienced in any other show.
I don't know that I feel that kind of insertion into it, but I can totally agree that this is the most real feeling show I've watched all year. It definitely feels like this is the way stuff actually happens.
I guess that's what I'm saying.
They're not just creating scenes to feed a dramatic plot line. These are things that would actually happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Like all you have to do is grainy up that footage and you could convince me it's a found footage show. like you know, security cameras all over the place.
It's incredibly, Natanagosa nailed it. Super honest.
Yes. almost, painfully honest at times, which of course is the best kind of honesty when you're telling a story.
What is not honest, but sometimes brutally realistic, is The Shield.
Yes. What do you want to now? Which episode are you on?
Episode 8, season 3 is Cracking Ice. So this is the one where Wims finally has her Achilles heel show. Wims has been kicking ass, kind of running the decoy squad and the strike team and playing them off against each other. She misses a very small problem in a report about not having tips phoned into a central office because there may be a mole, and puts Trish in danger, and in fact blows Waylon's cover. Waylon is now puts Wims on his personal enemy list. Trish goes through some stuff, but just shows how goddamn tough she is, and even has the self-awareness to say, no, I'm fine. Maybe the cocaine talking at the end, because she was undercover, so she had to do a bunch of things, including cocaine, to maintain her cover.
Now, hold on real quick. Trish is part of the decoy squad, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, man, the whole decoy squad, I hope this isn't a spoiler for you, but it's like, I remember that being a thing, but it didn't resonate. I hope it's not a spoiler for you to find out that this is not something that I remember most from those seasons.
No, that's not a spoiler to me. I mean, I can tell that the decoy squad is going to go away because Vic Mackey wants it to go away, and Vic Mackey gets what Vic Mackey wants.
Yeah, sure.
But for that being said, this isn't a decoy squad in the sense of a plot decoy that's not deep. Like, they're spending time showing me the depth of the characters on that squad.
Yeah.
The other plots that go on here, we get the side plot where Sam, what's his name? No, Tommy, the guy who got suspended, ends up going trying to get his job back. Aceveda says he can't, and he tries to get some help, and he gets promised help, but he doesn't believe him, and so he ends up shooting himself. And honestly, that's in some ways, I feel like one of the least it feels odd to say it's a very compelling storyline, but it's one of the least compelling storylines in The Shield because you felt like I knew it was coming,
Yeah.
And then the final plot point in this is who took the money. $7,000 just went missing from the money train.
And this is okay. And this is unresolved at this point. There's only 4 players.
Nobody knows who.
Okay.
Shane bought a Lexus for his honey, and now he bought an engagement ring, and everybody knows it. And so all the fingers are pointing at Shane, but Vic doesn't want to believe it. And this is just kind of floating above the rest of the plot.
Oh, that's right. Happens. So it begins. This is, and again, I hope this isn't a big surprise for you, but this is the kind of crack in what began as a rock solid, partnership. It's like there's the strike team, but within them, of all those players, like it's Shane and Vic that were inseparable and above. Like when it came time to murder a member of the strike team, it was Shane and Vic who acted as a block in that regard, So obviously this is a substantial crack in that foundation between them. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. Like every time you tell me about, not only do I love reliving them, but I love knowing that that I was right to push you into it.
Yeah, it's I was actually sad that I missed one last week, because I really do look forward to, like, it seems so weird to be a Sunday morning show because it's not very Sunday morning in tone, but it is. That's just how it works out in my schedule. Speaking of not Sunday morning shows, should we move on to Fargo episodes 8 and 9?
Yes, a million times yes. By the way, for background on this, I watched episode 1 of Fargo with Bonnie. And Bonnie, look, she's a mother of 3. She understands that there's only so much real estate in her mind, and there's only so many things that she wants to fill that with. She, after watching episode 1, was like, this is why I regretted watching Fargo. And I was like, what do you mean? You're like, yes, it's great. It's very well told. It's an exquisite story, blah, 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 blah. Also, now I picture that screwdriver in that eyeball or whatever. Like, it's those moments of graphic surprise that make Bonnie regret having been in there. Having said all that, it was utterly, utterly delightful to seduce her into watching this, where I was able to say, hey, here's some arcs. Remember that guy? Remember that thing? He almost got caught. He didn't get caught. Malvo got away, went on a tear. Key and Peele are FBI agents. By the way, watch this sketch from Key and Peele so you know why they're significant. It looks like we're headed into this moment with whatever. And I was able to kind of gloss over the whole arc of the, which the more I think about it, like, you didn't need to. I understand for flavor and texture, you wanted to have that whole arc with the grocery store guy. And I understand with, tying it into the mythos or whatever. But it's like, that's not the story. That whole business with him, that was 4 episodes of a side jag.
That's the MacGuffin to bring Malvo into the town.
Correct.
That's all it is.
Correct. Exactly. Moments that were great were, number one, the delightful, awkward adorableness of and I still don't know his name, Colin Hanks's character,
Grimly.
Yeah, Grimly seeing Solverson, and and her talking directly and almost guiding the courtship, saying like, well, hey, it'll be a certainty if we go to the fair together. You know what I like is this part, guiding him along and all that stuff. And the fact that he's before we even get to that, Malvo showing up and in a nod of respect to the our deaf hitman, tossing him some keys and just saying like, hit me up sometime, and off he goes.
You're still raw. Hit me up.
That was amazing. That was an amazing moment and a genuine surprise, because up until this point, he was cruel and professional at all times. And to see him take a side move like that, to be honest, I mean, I guess it's also a side move for him to do this random favor for Lester Nygaard. But the scene when what's-his-name's wife shows up with the 2 kids and Lester stands up and pounds them with the stapler, and the other chick is like, totally intoxicated with his badassness. Amazing.
Yeah.
But
Linda, is that her name? The woman in the insurance,
yes.
Who, and then, well, okay, here, but all of this is true. I have no disputes with any of this. The amazing bit, though, is at the end of episode 8, the
Yes.
heap. Not at the end, but in like, I don't know, 15 minutes before the end.
Yep.
We are like, and now we are going several years into the future,
Yes.
right? Fucking brilliant.
No,
Like-
and it's huge. It's huge too, because keep in mind, I don't know if you noticed, but they specifically did that right after.
I guess it's only 1 year.
What's that?
It's only 1 year. In the
Yeah,
future.
1 year later. But they do it right as right after Grimly says, he calls Solverson just to chit chat, and they get into the date stuff. And then one of the things he casually drops is, well, tomorrow's the hearing, and I got to explain what happened. And they're like, well, just tell everything the way it happened. Just leave out the part that you shot a cop. And then 1 year later, and he's a postman.
I always wanted to be a postman. Well, now he's a postman.
Wait, he said that?
Yeah, he said that in an earlier episode, because she asked him, like, how'd you end up becoming a cop?
No
and he was
kidding.
like, I always wanted to be a postman, but I needed a job, and my brother said that they were hiring down there, so, that's what I did.
Oh, I missed that. That's so much better. That's even better. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so...
And so now he's not only a postman, he's married Solverson. She's pregnant.
Yeah.
They live together in Bemidji. And you're now also getting to see Lester. Lester has won. He's married Linda.
Real quick,
he's in Las Vegas
before we
with
go on.
TV Salesman of the Year award, because he's so confident. Like we know he's confident because he goes and nails Louise, right? But the fact that he's actually like now on top of the world receiving an award, and then at the end of the heap, right? We've lived this through in this episode. We started this episode a year before when Lester was just feeling confidence, and we've seen like quickly like, oh, a year later, rise to power, everything's great. And he sits down at the bar. We're thinking, okay, this is going to be Lester gets tempted. Is he going to cheat on Linda? No, he sees Malvo. And that's the end. That's where you end that episode. And so brilliant, because I noticed, I don't know if this was why you ended up watching 8 and 9, because I know you were saying I'm going to watch one Fargo. I could not watch the next episode at that point.
Yes,
I was like, what did you do? No, he's sitting there. And then we go into this amazing story of Malvo where you're like, wait a minute now. He was a priest.
Wait. Oh, let me put you on pause just because I want to get caught up on a few thoughts going through this. Moments that I loved. Number one, my favorite moment. So we get giddy about the courtship between Gimli, whatever his name is, and Salverson, and then to see them flash forward. My favorite thing, and it's such a tiny thing, is that he says to his daughter, "Mom's doing blah blah blah." And mom is clearly Salverson. Like, it is complicated for a blended family to come together. And if a father can talk to his daughter and say, "Mom is doing blank," and it's a new mom, like that's like code that everything's working out and it's going well together. By the way, also echoes of the original Fargo, because the original Fargo, the chick was pregnant, and the husband was a painter who was excited that his was about to become a postal office stamp at the end of the movie, right? So it's like, now you have a pregnant woman hunting down a cold-blooded killer, right? And so I love that. Also, the brilliance of the 1 year forward thing is that it solves a very real problem. The problem with Lester Nygaard is that he's such a sympathetic character, and that his wife was such a raging bitch that there was some part of us that cheered when he killed her, and we feel guilty for it, and we shouldn't have, and we kept identifying, much like Vic Mackey, we wanted Lester to get away with it.
Well, even if you didn't cheer about him killing his wife, which you may not have, you wanted him to win against the bullies.
Yes, exactly.
You wanted him to get that confidence that Malvo wanted him to have. You wanted him to maybe not get pulled down by the fact that he had made a mistake and killed his wife. I mean, there's lots of reasons to cheer for Lester, even though in the end, he totally wins, and you feel like, well, wait, where we go from here?
Well, and where we go is a year into the future, where we're watching him with his douchebag haircut, his well-tailored suit, winning his awards, getting up, talking about how terrible things can happen, like people going to jail, people dying, again, all of which his fault. And then and then as if this is the perfect line, when he's in a moment of self-reflection, he goes, which is why you should have insurance. Thank you. And then it walks away. It's like in that moment, you're like, oh, now we all hate you. And we're really excited to watch you get taken down.
Yeah, you got the girl, you got the award, and you don't seem to appreciate it because you just sent her upstairs. And we all know what you're thinking when you go to the bar. And there's Malvo. There's spiritual retribution. And Malvo's backstory.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, talk about a long con. Woo. Like becoming a dentist? How does that work?
And not just, I'm sure he faked the credentials or whatever, but he didn't fake learning what the fourth molar on the blar is. Yeah, no. And the fact that he's playing a long con, and I love the fact that they undersold it. They didn't beat it over the head. They didn't spell it out for you that it's like, no, Malvo's such a professional that he was hired to track down somebody who was in witness protection. And not only did he learn how to become a dentist so that he could access this guy's brother, but he also learned how to be the kind of person that his brother would wish could connect with the guy who's in witness protection, all for the purpose of murdering him. And again, in true Fargo style, a cosmic coincidence just brings it all down. Lester coming in, smug, full of himself, thinking that he's done something that matters, just comes sauntering in and calls about having no idea the forces he's messing with.
Well, no, I think that's actually the better part about this is he actually does have an idea of what forces he's meddling with this time. He knows what Malvo's capable of. He knows who Malvo is now.
But he thinks he somehow deserves to talk to him that way?
He has a much overinflated sense of how much he knows about Malvo and what he has become. Like, yeah, he got confidence. Now he's not a simpering, cowering fool.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean he's on Malvo's level. And he way overplays his hand. And even though I knew it was a possibility, I was still taken aback. I was still shocked when Malvo's like, this is on you, Lester. Boom, boom, boom. Like, because it wasn't so much that he killed people, right?
Yeah.
That is shocking enough. But we know Malvo. We know Malvo kills people. We know Malvo's a psychopath. It's that Malvo said, well, I guess I'm just going to have to undo all this hard work that I did.
You killed the job.
And you've just seen what that work was. It wasn't like up all night studying. This was becoming a dentist, winning a woman over and proposing to her, getting on the side of the brother, like you said. All of that work, he was just like, Lester, you messed it up. Boom, boom, boom.
And that is to me, like what is black and white sealed Lester's death sentence, because Malvo does not suffer fools lightly, right? Especially fools who undo a half year of work that he's done.
So why doesn't he kill Lester?
Wow.
If it's just that, that's why it's not.
Hold on.
Just that.
I think that silence was the sound of my mind being broken, because you're right. Because to me, it's obvious when he says, "See you real soon, Lester," and then like why not kill him right then if that's the game plan?
Yeah, killing the three other people in the elevator was a practical matter for him. It wasn't personal. This was the situation he'd been put in. He had to get rid of
this gig is broken.
Yeah.
I wasted my time. Let's go ahead and start cleaning up right now.
Leaving Lester alive is an act of vengeance.
Oh, so you're saying like he's not good enough to die right now? Like his punishment.
He wants Lester to suffer. He's gonna pull a tape you to the door, and point you at the policeman.
Wow.
Lester doesn't get the mercy of a shot through the head.
Yeah, well, especially because I would imagine he's offended after the gift he gave Lester Nygaard, that he would be repaid this way. Which like I gave you your life, and you're going to come up and you're going to ruin one of my gigs. It's over. And
he gives him outs. Like he gets up and he goes, just walk away, right?
Yeah.
Like there's the first out. Then Lester gets in the elevator and he gives him another out. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And Lester doesn't take it.
And then he says, Lester, are you sure you want to do this? And then they say, 3 times he said yes, and then he got it, man. That's that's heavy duty. Also, love the fact that the whole scene where Key and Peele go to the to the filing prison,
yes. And they're like, we have to take this call. That's and
then that moment when they get together with Solverson, all of a sudden it's like, somebody's ready to do actual police work, and it's like, it's great. It's a great show. It's great. I love the way it's coming together. Certainly my excitement's at an all-time high. All I could do is thank you for not having watched the last episode as well, so we could talk about the last episode next week.
No, it might be what I do right after we finish recording this. But, because at the end, to bring it all back, what we're talking about, don't forget that Lester drives Linda to the office and makes her go in, knowing that Malvo is likely to be in there to attack him. He gives Linda up. He is back to being the coward.
Well, and even worse, he dresses Linda up as himself in order.
Honey, I forgot about that. You're right.
No. He killed her as plain as can be. Said and didn't tell her what she'd be facing, and sent her in to die at the hands of Malvo.
Which could undermine my theory a little if Malvo didn't recognize her, but I bet he did. My guess is he came out thinking it was Lester, and then saw it wasn't Lester and realized, well, now I've got to kill her. Because I still don't think I don't think he just pops out and shoots Lester in the head.
Oh, that's interesting. What if and I wouldn't be surprised if that comes up in episode 10 where he explains that fact. However, the mere fact that everything appears to be setting up, we've got all of these cops who have been wronged and have had Malvo slip through their fingers, kind of coming together to form Voltron to like actually make right the wrong. It tells me that most likely episode 10 will not end with either Lester dead or Malvo caught. That's fascinating.
But here's the thing, folks. One thing you can be sure of is we'll be talking about episode 10 next week.
Yes, no, that's for damn sure. Take that to the bank. Dude, good spoiler in time, man. We've got a lot of good TV to talk about.
Excellent stuff. Thanks, everybody, for watching and enjoying the show and supporting the show. And we will see you next time.